So this work is about the painters in the Harlem Renaissance. And the first one you're going to talk about is Jacob Lawrence, who was born in New Jersey, and he dropped out of high school when he was only 16 years old. However, he still took classes at the Harlem Art Workshop, and he was so good that he won a scholarship to the American Artist School in New York. Lawrence had several inspirations through his career, but a thing that shaped him a lot was that he was drafted to World War II. And with that, he started to paint several things that were related to war. After his duty, he grew very depressed and he even had to go to the hospital. So even when he was there, he still painted. He was very successful through his career as he teaches at the University of Washington in Seattle, and he could sell his things for such a high price that he painted limited editions to help nonprofit organizations. His most famous works are even at the mirrors in the Harold Washington Center in Chicago. Lawrence died in June 2000, still as an active painter. He never really stopped his works, and his inspirations, as I said, always varied. He never had really one. The second we're going to talk about is Aaron Douglas, who was born in Topeka, Kansas, and he was known as the father of the African American art. He may be the most famous painter in the Harlem Renaissance, and he graduated at the Topeka High School, and after that he attended the University of Nebraska. In 1925, after he graduated, he went to Harlem in New York, and that's where he was truly immersed in the African American culture. He knew a lot about art, so he could include several elements that were from outside of the country, like the Egyptian wall works in his paintings, so it was very different from all the others. Douglas was perhaps the most successful painter, as I already said, and his reputation just grew with his years. So he started selling his works for a lot of writers, very famous writers that wanted good illustrations in their books or in their comics or anything like that. And his most famous work was probably aspects of Negro life that he did several paintings on it, and all of them show a lot about everything that happened in Harlem and all the difficulties that African Americans had to face at the time. So the third one is Archibald John Motley. He was born in New Orleans, and he studied at the School of Art Institute of Chicago, which is very well known. He was the most modern painter maybe at his time, and he was very influenced by W.E.B. Du Bois, so that's where his African American identity comes from. And he painted primarily portraits. So his works focus a lot on jazz, which is very known, which was very known at the time and was really at his boom. And he was considered very modern and skillful painter, and he used those modernist abilities to do works that really seemed like they were moving. So that's why he liked painting jazz so much, and all the aspects of entertainment in the African American culture. Next, we have Palmer Hayden, who was born in Meadwater, Virginia, and his association with the Renaissance was more spiritual than stylistic, and that is sad because he wasn't as modern as the others. So he also didn't achieve much success because people didn't want to see paintings like his anymore. But he still was very accepted and very well known. He lived most of his life in New York, even though he was born in Virginia, and most of his inspirations came from Paris and all those paintings from years ago in Europe. He painted mostly in oil, which was a thing that was already there for some time. And Midsummer Night in Harlem is probably his most famous work. But the reason we say that he's with Harlem, he wasn't as stylistic as the others, is because his style really is so much different from all the other painters that we see in the same time. Louise Mary Lou Jones is the fifth painter I'm going to present, and she was born in Boston and graduated at the School of Museum of Fine Arts. Jones realized the importance of African tribal arts while studying in Paris, and she also started to paint a lot about nature and things like that, and that showed how good she was at looking different things. She married to a Haitian graphic artist, and that made her focus change a lot as she started painting a lot about Haiti and African, American, and Caribbean culture, and that just shows us how she really switched a lot of on her style during her life. She was considered a great artist since she was very young, so she always had a lot of success, and she even taught at the Howard University for a long time. Her interest always shifted. So at first it was African arts when she was in Paris. After it was the struggle of African Americans, and maybe her less stylistic main thing was the Caribbean culture. As I said, because she was married to a guy from Haiti. And she was so important that President Bill Clinton even met her and apologized for previous policies that really were not good for African Americans. So that is the presentation. Thank you very much.